Okay, welcome back. Episode 3 of the Truth Garden. Today we have a very special guest, Grant, who's a sound healer and a vibrational therapist. Looking forward to an interesting conversation today about many topics. We'll see where it goes. Just really looking forward to understanding a lot more about what he does and how he can help, and just trying to get through his awakening process and his story too, to where he's come from and where he's ended up. Without further ado, let's bring on our special guest, Grant. I'm going to add him to the stream. Oh, there's me. I'm just lagging a little bit here. Here we go. There he is. Welcome, Grant. Thank you for joining me. Episode 3 only. Must be an honor for you.
Oh man, it is, and my birthday's on the 3rd as well, so that feels quite right.
I was 3rd of July.
3rd of July, really? There you go, just around the corner. Oh no, I'm 3rd of November. Yeah.
Oh right. Okay.
Yeah. No.
Excellent, mate. Well, look, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time this morning. So I kind of I'd love to know how you got into the sound therapies and the vibrational healing, and talk a little bit about how music is created and broadcasted to the masses versus perhaps maybe how it should be. I don't know if that's the sort of right way to go about this, but I know certain frequencies influence our bodies and our cells in certain ways. So just a bit of an understanding. It's sort of new to me, but something I've been interested in for a while. So I'll pass it over to you, mate. If you just tell us how you got started and how you ended up where you are. Cheers, bro.
Beautiful. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. In terms of where I got started, it's without going on too much of a life story. It did start very young. My mum gave me a guitar when I was about 3 years old, or was gifted the chance to give me a guitar when I was about 3 years old, and it was something I just used to bang around on. Nothing crazy. I didn't. I was 3 years old. I didn't know what I was doing with it. But it's the one thing from my childhood I can really just recall always having, like, that was my toy per se, and also my security blanket in many ways as well. I didn't have a literal security blanket. I used to carry that around everywhere. Why that was important at the time was I was born, but I was born with a few medical conditions from the get-go, and flown from the womb, flown from birth straight into Camperdown Children's Hospital in Sydney, and spent the first month of my life in a humidity crib, and experienced that was pretty much my initial experience into this realm and reality, and it didn't really relent until I was about 11 years old, and I was diagnosed with spina bifida at the age of 3, and that kind of came from a precursor of having a few different conditions that the diagnosis kind of led to spina bifida, but a very mild case of spina bifida. And so by the time I was about 11 or 12 years old, I had about 32 what would be considered major procedures or operations. And everything from having a shunt placed on my spine to stopping epileptic fits, having gastostomy stomas placed in the body to allow for continence over the bowel, I had one of Australia's leading neurosurgeons drop a utensil on my spine as he was sewing me up one day, and like absolute understanding, because, you know, they spend 12, 14 hours in there and they've got no real other choice, you know, but to be fatigued and lagged. But so he dropped a utensil on my spine at the last moment, sewing me up, and I effectively had to spend the next 8 months in hospital learning how to walk again, and that was about at the age of 7 or 8 years old. So in the off time of all of these experiences, I music was the thing that I'd always go to, or that little guitar was the thing that I'd always move towards, always pick up, always have in my back pocket. And so from a very, not necessarily totally completely understanding it, but from a very early age, I was establishing a relationship with music that was leading towards the notions of healing. It was my aspect of healing. If I, instead of taking all my angst and animosity and anger out on the world, I'd take it out on the guitar in many aspects and just play E minor for like an hour, just going dun 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 dun. Um, and
Beautiful
and
chord.
yeah, and it is, man, it is, and you know, like nothing else matters when you are playing that chord. So, and so kind of reintegrating and coming back into, because there wasn't a lot of, there was occasionally schooling at hospital, because my stints in hospital were usually large periods and months at a time. There wasn't like little interims or anything. It was big hits and big stints, and so there was education during that process, and I was surrounded by like nurses and doctors as well. So there was always that kind of linguistic conversation going on, picking up on that too, and being surrounded by that. That'll what effectively happened when I started re-entering the schooling system and the education system that we're presented to on a public level. It was an interesting integration process, mainly because of how you'd say, not really having those fundamental relationships with authority, or false authority, I'd say. And yeah, so I was a little bit of a rebel in high school, but I was also under the regiment of what I was exposed to medically wise. And to put that into perspective, I didn't really pay attention at school or really give a shit other than music or ancient history occasionally, and then a couple of other little subjects, but mainly like music was my thing. And so it would be music or pretty much as I could during the day at school, and then by the time I got home, because of the gastostomy stomas, which is like a, for the audience, it's like a little plug that attaches to you wherever they attach it to, but in my circumstance it was the upper colon system, and you effectively put water, 2 liters of saline water into it, and flush your system. And where I had a lot of experience with it, because it was I was like third, 14th in the world to actually undergo the procedure, and then from those moments I was like third and first to trial certain types of gastostomy stomas as well. So I was irrigating my bowels with this system for about 11 years in total, from the age of 7 to 18 years old. And so what the afternoons consisted of was that process every afternoon. There was no coming home. Sorry, I should say there was no going out and drinking and being reckless or anything like that. It was very much come home, do that, and that was, again, guitar in the hand, and music in the hand, and playing and composing and working through all that teenage angst and animosity. And so that that was the foundation that paved the way for a lifetime of curiosity into how sound can be incorporated into healing aspects and therapeutic benefits. And then at the age of 18, I after lighting up my endocannabinoid system, I was actually relented from experiencing that incontinence. And so I gained function over my bowel system again, and I had the gastroscopy stoma removed, and I was able to rebel. So I did, yeah, and I rebelled hard. Well,
a lot of builds up. Yeah. Anyway, go on, mate.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of stuff that needed to be experienced in those former years that just wasn't experienced, and so cut that kind of long story short. It involved moving as far away from home as I could without moving to another country. It's involved dabbling in occasionally dabbling in cannabis and a couple of psychedelics and things here and there, like early youth kind of stages, and relationship with it as well. And then that ironically led to the synthetic cannabinoid little moment there that occurred with the chronic and all that kind of jazz. And so when I was around 2021, I had a little bit of no bad moments or anything like that, but had a little bit of a dabble with it, and it was enough for me to go like, and it sent me into a pretty dark space, on top of my grandfather passing away and a few other deaths in the family as well. So like I hit that 21 point at like how you would say rebelling, pushed into a bit of a dark space, and all of the stuff from the previous 18 years, 20 years was all boiling up into this gargling pot of shit that I really had to deal with, otherwise I was going to get torn apart. So after spending a few years in Melbourne, I ended up and in that period of time moving to Melbourne and living there for a while, I very much put down music as well, which is understandable. And that allowed for even more clarity later on, once hitting that 25, 26-year-old stage, and going through the kind of experiences that you do at that age of like getting engaged and thinking you're going to get married and have kids and get a house and all that jazz as well. And I had moved through a lot of stuff by that age, in that 3 or 4 year period. But only the surface in comparison to what I was going to find out after that. Sure. Within that period of time, I was so on the what would typically be called the conspiracy train. And I was diving into every rabbit hole that you could find, because I made time for it. I wasn't doing anything else. That was my rebel, was going, all right, well, what the fuck is actually going on here? Like
9/11 would have been all that time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, no, I didn't necessarily like. Yeah, we all know where we were on that day, man. But like this was probably more like 2009, 2010.
Oh, okay.
That I was that I was really starting to get into it, and that's when I was looking into the music industry, and that's when like going into how music is broadcasted to the masses and how it's inappropriated to what actually sound and vibration and music has the capacity of being, and what it integrally would have derived from in terms of our originality of what humanity is and where humanity has come from. And that
that's
can be taught.
interesting, mate, isn't it? Yeah, that's yeah, I suppose a lot of people, that's a rabbit hole I've only really scratched the surface of. So yeah, I'm really keen to know a little bit more about that. It's interesting
Absolutely.
stuff, mate. Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you say that's, I mean, let me start off by saying this.
Please.
Isn't it funny that back in the sort of, when I suppose metal was, becoming popular with things like, just, I suppose, fast forward from the Deep Purples and that, but get to the Metallica
Yes.
and heavy metal sort
And
of,
Tool and
fast forward. Yeah. And it's all the devil's music, right? It's all the devil's music and this and that. And
yes.
then you fast forward to today, and pop music's the new devil music, isn't it? Like, it literally is just completely surrounded with, or encoded with, these kind of Luciferian style, images
Big time.
and codes and everything. So, where do you see, music going to from here? I suppose we can get to that later, but just let us, if you can just elaborate on, I suppose, where you kicked off before, and saying, how music's recorded and
Yes.
broadcasted, and how potentially a better way that it could be, or just a bit of the science in and around that. Yeah, thanks, man.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's and thank you, man, because I can, as I said, I can go on a little bit of a tangent as well. So I'm going to apologize, put my hand up for that. Because there's just
away, there is nothing too intangible for the Truth Garden, Grant.
That's exactly awesome. Good to know, man.
Anyway.
Like, yeah, it all has its tangibility. There's so
is it
in
a
terms of
thing, mate, or is it
so there's definitely a lot of information out there on the idea of 432 hertz that gets pushed quite a bit. There's there's, depending on who you talk to, some people discuss the idea of 444 hertz as well. And you've got things like the solfeggio frequencies. The actual way to look at it from my own perspective, or my own opinion, is that nature surrounds us with naturally calibrated frequencies, and they're constant. Like, nature in itself is constantly emitting a certain range of naturally harmonic wavelengths or frequencies that we can attune instruments to. When we tune the instruments to, say, the same pitch of a bird song, that's a natural recalibration. That's you tying your instrument into something that, without going into too deep of a rabbit hole or saying something too profound, those wavelengths that bird is emitting are attributing to a range of wavelengths that are the same as the wavelengths of the creation of life. So when it comes down to the creation of life, that is optimal, where you could say homeostasis, but you could, that's your optimal cell environment. That's state of origin. That's as much the beginning and the end. Any wavelength that kind of occurs, and most of them are man-made, but dissonant wave, you've got naturally harmonic wavelengths and you've got dissonant wavelengths, and dissonant or sporadic wavelengths will tend to have the capacity to distort and they're the things that make us go like, ew, and freak out a little bit.
Like fingernails on a chalkboard, perhaps, or
exactly right, exactly right. So that jarring nature, that's not harmonically attuned to our being, but it does have its place in the fact of being able to conjure up things that we might be able to deal with in that time. And that's more on the sense of, say you're listening to, say you hear nails down a chalkboard, that brings up a retained memory from your childhood, which has attached some sort of emotional belief system or vow or something along that nature. And then in that moment, you're able to, inside, reinterpret and recalibrate that experience from where you are now, not from where you were in that moment, and how that emotion attached itself to that moment and how you've been carrying that along the way. And so, yeah, sporadic and dissonant wavelengths definitely have their place in the sound healing environment, because they do conjure those moments of when someone might be so blissed out and so numbed out to like that they've become almost apathetic and numb that something can go and bring them back into a space of like grounded and centered, rather than being all flighty up in the air, bring them back down.
Mate, just can I pause you for a second?
Tangent again.
No. I just got a question on. It's a very quick comment. I don't know. Are you familiar with the TV series Stranger Things? Have you seen that?
I haven't watched it yet, but I've got a couple of friends that definitely watch it. Yes, and heard some things about it.
Yeah, well, there was in the most recent season. You know, it's I don't look. I'm not going to get right into that, but essentially, so the kids that are the main characters of the show, they end up in this kind of upside down world. It's like the opposite, right? It's all doom and gloom and dark, and it's the evil forces, the demonic forces, sort of drawing them in. And one way that they can break out of it is through music, through sound. And they play this chick's favorite song, and it's the only way she can escape the demon to get back through to our world, our realm. So yeah, it's interesting that you say that about literally like moving someone from here to here in an instant, and that just triggered a memory. But anyway, go on, man. I feel like these TV shows often drop little hidden truths, very often.
That absolutely do. I recently watched a TV show with my partner, and it was called American Gods. And the amount of information that's in the first season, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. There's so much information in that first season.
It's crazy. That is just a truth bomb, left, right, and center, right? Yeah, anyway,
big time.
Do another episode on decoding movies. Anyway.
Oh, please, because that was. Yeah, I'd love to. I got plenty on it from like 21 to 26. I watched a lot of movies.
Yeah, nice. Crazy stuff.
And in relation to the Stranger Things situation and that little girl, the major thing that I would pull out of what you said there is the orientation around love and the power of love. It's no accident that it's such a cliche, and it's no accident that it's been the main message that's been pushed for the last however many thousands and thousands of years that you want to go back into the history books and interpret it. The capacity of love in terms of a vibration and in terms of an oscillating wavelength, its main ability and its most important ability is that it diminishes and dissolves fear. And when you dissolve fear, you're no longer boundless in the thing that you had your fear orientated around. And so by no longer being boundless in that experience, you're not going through cyclic behavior, you're not going through and you're not reaping the consequences of that cyclic behavior, things like frustration and animosity, anxiety, depression. These things are experienced from the actual experience that we're deciding to have every day, and a lot of the time we don't understand that we actually have the power to make the choice. Sometimes we get in these states where we think the decisions are being made for us, and that's where when you're driving your car and a song comes on, and then you have this massive emotional release. and you get to realize in that moment, oh shit, I can actually uh, um, change how I feel about this or how I felt about this, and that might be the 2-degree course or 2-degree change in your course of how you were navigating through this life. So instead of going this way, you start teetering off this way for your experience, which isn't necessarily a bad thing at all.
Sure.
Yeah, and so yeah, with the girl in Stranger Things and being able to play her favorite song, and that takes her from one place and gets her out of the upside world and puts her into the right side world, then I'd take from the metaphor of that, if you're locked in a space of anguish, in a very dark space that you feel trapped in, then start listening to the songs that touch you most, because they will take you out of that space. But the the biggest kicker is that you just can't bullshit yourself. Like there's no bullshitting yourself. That's the process. Like,
Yep.
yeah.
Interesting. Cool, man. Hey, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. It's profound stuff. So in terms of, you know, you were talking about frequencies and sounds, sort of, as you just reiterate again, moving you from one state of emotion to another.
Yes.
What do you do then? Like, is that kind of, like, that's only half the work done, right? Okay, you've been put in this better place, but then you have to, I suppose, capitalize on that. Would you continue with sound and stuff, or is many different things, I suppose?
There's a saying out there that once you interpret sound, you have the ability to interpret all things. I often find that one really, really profound, because it says so much in such a little thing. It is truth, and it reminds me every day of how much I don't know. That can see things in so many different ways. Sound makes up absolutely everything that we experience. It's holding everything together. Even down to the.
So sorry, I was just gonna say, as in like vibration, right? And
Yes,
is everything.
Yeah. So vibration is everything, and then sound is like a symptom of vibration. There's some that we can hear, there's some that we can't hear. So in terms of how it looks like post sound healing experience, your internal dialogue is sound. The conversations that you have with people are sound, and the interpretation of their sound. The thing is that we often interpret sound as music, and or we often interpret the healing aspects of sound in kind of just like a musical aspect. You get to change up all things that orientate themselves around sound. The types of conversations that you're engaging in, the tones behind the conversations that you're engaging in. Are you engaging with people, like from a post-healing experience? Are your engagements with yourself or the people around you coming from a space of love? And I don't mean to sound cliche and generic in that. Let's deepen the idea of the notion of what I'm talking about. Love in the terms of you not beating yourself up in your own head. The love in the terms of encouraging your own growth, encouraging the fact that you've been through something and that it takes time to heal. And if you were to have a grazed knee, and then once you saw the grazed knee and went like, well, why isn't that healed? I know it's a grazed knee now. Like, well, it takes time.
Yeah.
And there are, you, like, as much as we're a part of being the healing process, there are, like, I don't know how the skin cells put themselves back together and turn back into an origin state of what my knee looked like before it was grazed. But my body is doing the process. My body does the thing that it needs to do. And that's also vibrations. That's also oscillating wavelengths on an atom level. So without going too profound there, what it looks like in terms of the post-healing experience is Ironically, a lot of silence. Silence brings things out of it. Sound comes out of silence. And you might have conversations with yourself after. Let's put some clarity onto the situation. You're driving in the car, you hear a song, it makes a shift in you, it causes a shift in you. From that experience of remembering a moment in your life where you felt like there was a trespass or an affliction or something where you felt like you didn't, you got hurt by that moment. That memory comes up in you. You've lived an experience, like you've lived life experiences since that moment. You're now able to reinterpret that moment and give it credence to a new value to yourself. And in the way that that functions, from that moment on is your decision point of how you're going to interpret these things. Are you going to repeat the process of beating yourself up or saying negative things in your mind or allowing negative things to be said in your mind, or are you going to take control and the reins of the way that you think by simply breathing, finding a silent place to go in or a quiet place to go and sit and practice, like lifting weights? If you're going to go to the gym and work on your body, then go to your quiet place and work on your mind and start lifting some weights of silence and some not necessarily control, but
we just get bombarded.
Observational. Yeah.
Yes.
No,
yes.
we do.
Yes.
We do. So taking the time to observe your thoughts rather than absorb your thoughts will give, that'll give you time to, number one, not react and then have to deal with the consequences of the reaction. It'll give you an opportunity to sit, measure inwardly so that you can appropriately measure outwardly as to how you will correspond with the next moment. You're taking that time with yourself so that you're ensuring that when you move through this life, you're moving from a space of love for yourself, love for the person that you're with, love for the person that you're communicating with or having an experience with, be it a cup of coffee or be it an argument. Like, still coming from that place of, well, I fucking love you because you're a human being and I love humanity and the human spirit and this is human experience. It's
awesome, man.
Yeah,
I love it. I
yeah.
love it. I love it, man. I love it.
He loves it. He loves it. Thank you, man. And look, to be honest, well, look, it does need to be said that there's a disclaimer. I've recently had like some pretty profound things happen in my life that have put me into a massive space of love. And so I'm on the major love train right now, and I'm putting it out there because needs to be done. Needs to be done, man.
I must say, man, the first time I met you, you had a very loving aura about you. You have this kind of beautiful tone and glowing nature, man. I must say, it definitely resonates on the, outwardly. That's for sure. So,
Thank you.
If you're just working on that to make it even be stronger and resonate harder, that can only be a good thing, bro.
You got it. And then we get into the idea of sympathetic wavelengths, and that's it. That's a great segue. That's what we're experiencing right now with. And thank you, Chris. Thank you, man. I don't want to thank you, man. Like, it's always I love seeing you in the mornings when you come in and seeing you, Bubba Girl, and just you two playing out the back is just such a joy to see, man. And
it's a
you're
great start
man.
to the day for me, man. It's good.
It is. Yeah, you're a loving dad, man, and it's so good to see. I really appreciate seeing that.
Awesome.
Yeah. So in terms of being music broadcasted to the masses and tying in with
Sorry, I was just going to say, well, obviously we can use sound and frequencies of music in a positive way, which is what we've been talking about, and I'm sure we'll even get back into. I mean, there's just endless topics just on that, but
yes,
where there's a yin, there's a yang. So, I mean, just go on. Perhaps I'm getting too far ahead of myself, thinking that
No, because
to an extent, some of it's sinister. Like why would they choose this kind of who is they and what am I even talking about? But if you're a producer, a record company, perhaps well, we need to make sure that this is recorded in such and such a hertz or whatever.
Yes.
Please elaborate for me because it's all new to me, man.
Okay, all right, I'll elaborate. Easiest way to elaborate is that if anyone on the internet right now can go and check out on YouTube, if you were to search Cymatics, which is Cymatics, and 400, type in 432 hertz against or versus 440 hertz. To give you the reason why you're doing that is you're looking at the difference of what a naturally harmonic tone looks like when it's subjected to sand in comparison to the tone or the frequency tuning that I'll elaborate on in a moment, 440 hertz being subjected to the sand, and how dissonant or
Are you saying sand? Sorry, is that the medium that the wavelengths are broadcasted into?
They're usually either broadcasted into sand, water, water as well. Yep. So water's a big one. There's studies out there that show, and there's plenty to discredit. There's plenty to credit. It's wherever you want to sit on it. But water definitely has the capacity, and I think how it probably works with us personally in our own body is that we have a lot of silica as well. And we've got gold, silver, mercury, copper, zinc, silica, a little bit of, I'm sure there's some granite in there somewhere with some heavy metals. Where we're definitely electromagnetic beings. We're definitely electronic beings of some kind.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's we have to keep that in kind of mind when touching on these subjects as well, because water having the capacity to retain memory and means that it has the capacity to not only retain trauma, but it also has the capacity to retain celebration.
Yay! Cells. Well, I mean, aren't we told that we're 70% water too? So that's
we are.
Seems like it, yeah.
And we're not only like, and there's so much metal in that water as well. Like and we've got a bit of quartz in there as well somewhere, I think too. So antenna, perhaps. Well, we definitely know. You taking that into account and bringing it back to resonation, and bringing it into what that means for water and us as water beings, and then a little bit of physics with sympathetic wavelengths. If you and harmonic resonance. So in the field of sound healing, those two aspects, harmonic resonance and sympathetic wavelengths, are probably the big things that we utilize and focus on. Harmonic resonance, it can be seen if anyone listening has a guitar in their lounge room or something like that, and you've walked into your lounge room and you sneeze and you hear that guitar go, then what's actually happened is during your there's something in that somewhere in that, from that to the in between has been the same pitch or same wavelength as one of the strings on the guitar, and the soundboard has vibrated as a result of that. So when you have two things harmonically resonating at the same pitch in a localized vicinity of each other, and without going, and that comes down to velocity of the wavelength, is how far it can move.
Sure.
But just putting it down to two things are harmonically resonating, or the two things are singing at the same pitch. They will both, if one is singing and the other one has that tune or that frequency as a part of its being, it will, both of them will vibrate. Both of them have no choice. There's this world just does it.
Governed by,
It's
yep.
governed by natural laws of physics. So, so that's harmonic resonance. Now, if you have sympathetic wavelengths, how sympathetic wavelengths can be seen, again, anyone on YouTube can go and have a look at this. Look up sympathetic wavelengths with metronomes, and you can get 100 metronomes and put them onto a table, and then every single metronome has been put at a different beats per minute. So it's clicking. And then all of a sudden, over a little bit of time, they all start clicking together.
They sync up.
And
no way.
So they all sync up, and and that is called sympathetic wavelength. So if you take those two principles into power with music being brought, like we'll just touch on a couple of three main subjects: music broadcasted to the masses, the healing aspects of what that looks like, and then also the power of, if you want to, and what it actually surrounds is the power and ability to project a certain thought or a certain meme or a certain feeling or emotion, or convey an idea or a message or a metaphor or symbology. These things that come out within the artistic dimension that that we interpret, and as a part of interpreting, we place value systems and vows, and we want to be these things, we want to do these things, because we're actually subjected to a life of distraction, and the thing that we want to be doing is the thing that we're experiencing, but because we live this, we're not doing this, and so we tie, and it becomes a big fucking mess when it's in control of the wrong hands. So and then you can get on to fingers, strings, and puppets and all that jazz as well. But
we'll see how we go. We'll see how we go.
Well, exactly.
I mean, just focus on, mate. Just
I'll focus on that.
It doesn't matter, because I think you've said a lot already in terms of how, you know, if you take those two principles of the harmonic resonance and the sympathetic wavelength, I mean, it's quite clear how, you know, our bodies can be influenced just with pitch. Yeah,
exactly. And then the two fundamental states of our being, like fight or flight, love, fear. Most of the music that we listen to today, coming out of the major top charts, is orientated around fear in some degree or aspect. There's and the ones that are orientated around love are the ones that shine brightest, because that power, that resonation, that frequency, we are so, like, this heart is orientated around taking on board that. It wants to take it on board. It wants to lift the body. It wants to lift you out from your base, when not interpreted from a place of love. Your base feelings, and get you up, get you up into a space where we're looking at the capacity of the human endeavor and the human spirit being something where we're all able to create, we're all able to be governed by our own free will. So in terms of music being broadcasted to the masses, 440 hertz was a frequency that was introduced in the 50s, after World War II. The reason why it was the reason why, and I'm sure you can find where the studies came from, but the reason why it was changed is it was found that when you're the reason why they tell the masses is they wanted to standardize tuning so that all orchestras around the world could be like a concert pitch of standard C could be established, so that all orchestral music around the world could be interpreted in the same form. All instruments would be tuned the same. Everything would be tuned the same. There would no longer be the ability for us to be naturally tuning our instruments from a perspective of our own harmonic resonance, of our own natural 432 state of being, and based of the fact that we are that out there, which is nature. We're built and derived from the things that make up everything else that we experience in this realm, whatever way you want to look at it. World, yeah, it's a realm.
So just on that, man, real quick. So when you say
Please.
they changed the standard, so like if I was going to tune my guitar to just a standard E, right? Like,
yep.
Are you saying that it was different before? Like that E was?
It was.
Yeah, right. So the E that I tune off is obviously it's a synthetic E. It's something that I'll find, whether that be, I mean, I used to tune it off just a little flute when I was a kid.
Yep.
I used to tune my guitar off a flute. Would that be somewhat even more akin to natural? Probably not, because that flute's been manufactured after the 50s to, yeah, right.
You got it.
Huh. That's interesting.
You got it.
So
that's the power. No, that's the power and capacity of the Institute of Standards and Statistics. That's what they're built there to do, is to normalize and standardize absolutely everything so that we have no individuality anymore. And through our individual creative expression, we grow and develop the human endeavor and the human spirit and the human experience. Like if we're all experiencing the same thing, then we're going to hit a point of singularity at some point and just go blip. But the diversity of our being is the thing that makes us so fucking amazing. Like, and having gratitude and love towards that, not having fear and hate and scarce and fear of unknown and like, oh my God, boogeyman's going to come around the corner and fuck me over. It's not about that. No. It's celebrating the person and celebrating the human being, when they're coming from a place of love and integrity for the whole of humanity.
So how can I tune my guitar? So, sorry, man. No, that's
no. Please.
I totally agree. I just cut you off on a beautiful philosophical outpouring of love. So how do I tune my guitar to a 4-3-2, right?
So number one would be to. It might sound a little bit esoteric, but you could, instead of listening to the first note of Nothing Else Matters in your head and tuning it to that, you can, which is what I used to do, you can go outside, you can sit for a while, and this is what I mean by it sounding maybe a little bit esoteric, is that you could literally be in nature and away from ambient noises of man, and listen to the bird songs, and it doesn't have to be like, you'll find a string. You've got 6 to choose from. That's pretty close to the full 8. You've got plenty to choose from to find a center point. If you're hearing a peewee or a magpie or a kookaburra or something going off, there's a point there. But the main one, the biggest one, is when you're tuning your guitar, listen and feel how it feels against your heart when you're tuning your guitar. Listen to how it feels on your body, and go down, go up, go through. Don't be locked in this little bandwidth. Go through and find those points that feel really good. And it's as simple as that. It's just feeling really good, because like fear feels really shit. Love feels really good. And there'd be none of this going on around us if there wasn't a purpose for life and creation. So,
amazing.
Yeah, just a little random note there. In terms of harmonic resonance and sympathetic wavelengths having a great benefit for humanity, there are a lot of musicians coming through at the moment that are on this train, that they've recognized where we've been had in the 50s, and if I'm going to touch on what the difference is very simply, here's a little singing bowl. So if we were to go, so that if we were to say that that was 432 hertz and 440 hertz, I'll do the transition from one to the other. It's so subtle.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a it's not even a
Just off.
Yeah, it's literally it's what we would call 8 cents away from harmonic. So it's pretty fun. It's not funny. It's not funny. No, but it's super cheeky. It's super cheeky, and you have to, like, in kung fu they say bow to your opponent who's defeated you for recognizing where you've had your weakness. So the thing that I find cheeky in it is that subtle difference energetically, what it actually says is that it's raising anxiety. So like when you're in a state of suspension, right, and you feel that, like, ooh, it's like what's going on? And so from the 50s, that's what we've had.
And that would be, yeah, I mean, that's not just music, is it? It's just or sort of songs that we listen to on the radio, whatever, Spotify. It's also in the movies. I mean, those things are all tuned to the same resonance. So you get that suspenseful music in a a chilling time, in a thrilling time in a movie. Well, that's just going to amplify the visual and the audio. So then what you're feeling inside, it feels real, doesn't it? Watching a movie sometimes, like it feels like it's actually happening to you. And
absolutely,
your brain's recognizing the images, which I say to my wife often too. I think I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing that we even take in some of these images. Like now, if it's something gruesome, I just don't watch. Whereas, as a kid, it's like, oh, look at the blood and gore. But I feel sick now when I watch. Not so much blood and gore. Gore, yes, blood is blood, but you know what I mean. If it's just a not so pleasing image, I just won't watch it. And I never thought about the sound, man. But I suppose that's just making it worse. Yeah.
Well, like, I mean, it just adds to it. It adds to the whole spell, and you're. I mean, I wrote down something that I wanted to say because I was watching your episode with David Weiss before I jumped on this one, and the absolute legend. There was something that I pulled from this, and just touching on it with mentioning the word spell, and knowing that there's going to be quite a few of your watchers that will automatically know what I'm talking about in terms of the Hollywood and everything, that whole rabbit hole. There's one thing I really wanted to say, and I think this might be a perfect place for it. I'm just going to read it, man.
Do it.
If that's
Sounds
cool.
good.
Yes. Sweet. Yeah. So I wrote down, the biggest task a truther asks of an indoctrinated individual experiencing symptoms of Stockholm syndrome is for them to dissolve their love and authority for their captors, accept that most of the parameters of their life are a lie, and endure the overwhelming sensation that everything the spent energy on has been for nothing. Their spent energy has been for nothing. This exchange of correspondence is an extension of fear. The truther fears the life of the other for them. We're already coming from that place of fear for them. Like, I need to save you because fuck. Like, so rather than acknowledging their own personal journey towards sovereignty and how they may best encourage that journey for others with integrity towards their heart, that person's heart, their love, their gratitude for their existence. How many people have we seen in the last 24 months have their mind absolutely blown and not known how to handle it, not known what to do in terms of this situation that we're seeing unfolding right now? We were the generation that got reefed through this so that we could pave the way and pave the path of love and gratitude for the sanctity of the human spirit in connection with earth, moon, sun, and the consciousness of energy we call life, birth, and creation.
I love it, man. I love it. That is that.
Thank
Well
you.
done. Really, really awesome, man. Like, because, yeah, I mean, that just hit so many, I guess, points of what I think I know the bit you're talking about in the episode where we try to break through those spells and just try and understand it from the other side. And yeah, the fact that you've been able to sort of hear that and process it and then just kind of lay it all out. It's, yeah, man, that's awesome. Thanks. I'm going to reread that once this is done, or
yes,
re-listen to that. That was good, man.
Please. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, and I really loved how you finished it off. I mean, we've been reefed through to pave the way for the future generations, and that was a big part of. What do you think about, before I say that? Where are you on the flat Earth sort of globe Earth debate, or don't care, or what's?
It's not a matter of not caring. Because I definitely don't want Santos Bonacci on my ass. No, because a lot of love and respect to that man. He's been a paver, an absolute paver, and he's probably he's the one guy that I give a lot of time to. A good mate of mine. We were just having a conversation on this subject before I jumped on with you as well. Because it was coming off he and I watching a little bit of the David episode, and like guys like Erwind and Lost History of Flat Earth, and how people
that was fantastic, wasn't it? That series, yeah.
That was, and if you've ever listened to a one thing to touch on with that Erwind series is if you've ever listened to a hypnosis book, like To Quit Smoking or something, he's using the exact same linguistic format in that Erwind Lost History of Flat Earth that you would find in one of those hypnosis books. So that's something to take into consideration as well.
Yeah,
he says
I heard Globebusters break it down. I don't know if you're familiar with Globebusters, but they broke down his second part, and they're like, there's a little bit going on here that sounds a little bit. They had many questions anyway. As I think Dave Weiss says, you take the good and you leave the bad, right? You're never going to follow any one person 100%. You just kind of take it all in, make up your own decisions and ideas. Yeah.
And Space Busters is another guy for that. I really enjoyed some of his content. He's
great.
Yeah, great guy. And I love his particular type of humor as well. He's hilarious.
Yes. In your face, kind of no filter.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah. Exactly right, and it's quite entertaining. But where do I sit on it, man? Is that
I suppose it doesn't really matter. Go on. Yeah.
No. I think it does matter. I think some of the reasons why we think it matters don't matter.
Sorry, man. I just meant for what I was going to allude to. It didn't matter, but I just thought I'd want your opinion. So just go on.
No. I definitely want to shout it out there and put it out there, man. And I think where I land on it is that after like a few years very much looking into it and having some awesome conversations with some awesome people who have done a lot of work in there, I kind of hit back onto Dreamtime and it's a realm. The reason why I feel so comfortable in sitting with that is too many people have stolen the books and burnt the history and burnt the evidence. We've had hundreds, if not thousands of years of knowledge and wisdom being sacrificed and burnt and lost, and then whatever's been left over has been retained and held in sacred and secret libraries. So I think until we free the books, we won't actually really know. And I feel like there's, like right now, with the amount of energy that's being expelled and exhausted on the arguments and trying to find out what the thing is, the actual big underlying issue with ever finding truth in that matter is the fact that there's secret libraries that hold the books to those truths, and the established control systems that hold those books are the things that we need to maybe point that energy toward so that we can actually get an answer. I'm gonna quickly show you in one moment, in one absolutely perfect metaphor of what I'm talking about.
Sure.
Yeah. Um, so I'm not sure if you can still hear me, so I'll keep
Yeah,
chatting.
I can hear you, man. Keep
Yeah,
going.
beautiful. So what I'm going to get to is where are we currently in the world, and where are we currently with that situation and circumstance. In a metaphorical context, this is a book. It's called The Must Words, the 6,000 most important words for a successful and profitable vocabulary. Look at the size of it, okay? Tiny, fucking tiny. Let's have a look at the size, or let's have a quick look at the date. Maybe, I don't know, I'll make it quick. Fucking 1979, all right? Now, in terms of secret libraries and books being withheld, what we experience on our side, what we experience on the public side is, I'll show you a book that I found that is called Webster's Dictionary.
Dictionary. Yep. Oh yeah, the old Webster's Dictionary. Yep.
The old Webster's Dictionary. Now,
What a
just
beast.
for a little bit of
a
size, yes. Now, for a bit of a size difference,
wow.
Let's put it into context.
Well,
1960, right? 1979, okay? And where are we today?
we're on our iPhones.
This is an example of what used to be a pretty standardized version of our intellect, like in the capacity of our intellect and wisdom and understanding and being able to retain information, right? And share it. Then we got to this in the 80s. And now we think we're fucking all knowing because we've got this device in our pocket that is riddled with algorithms.
Yeah.
So,
I see what you're saying, man. I see what you're saying. It's I mean, it's hard to get to the truth, the real absolute truth of most matters, let alone, this exact form of existence and this plane or realm. I think realm is a good word. But to me, it sort of refers more to the spirit side of our existence and sort of how we sort of move in and out different realms or sectors, whatever. But for me personally, just to finish off on this, we don't have to keep going. I suppose if you take the physical side of our existence, which I don't think you can't really deny we're having a physical experience too, right? Like I mean, obviously, there's physical things. They're all vibrating. They're all energetic. We know that. I suppose most people know that.
Yep.
The trick becomes, I think anyway, the spell becomes, okay, well, most people I think have the feeling of an inherent knowing to an extent that it doesn't make sense, like a big bang and then everything just happens and there's consciousness doesn't exist, you die and that's it. I think most people deep down find that hard to believe. I don't know.
Good.
I'll probably just get slammed for that. But anyway.
They've been taught to, but yes.
Well, that's true. They've been taught to, man. They've been taught to. But deep down, you could probably get to it if you tried hard enough. I suppose where I'm going is from a physical point only, and the natural laws and sciences and physics of this realm in the physical sense. I mean, we can go out there and say 100% that we don't live on a spinning globe that chases the sun, which chases the Milky Way, which chases the great attractor, because it just doesn't make sense. I mean, you empirically and scientifically, you cannot do those experiments to therefore go say, yes, this is 100% truth. So I think flat Earth, especially for newer people that are coming into it, it's not, often you get the flat Earth disc floating in space, which is no one believes that, and then all you
The
get,
UN flag.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
no. If you watch like a debunking flat Earth video, they'll put the solar system with the sun at the center.
Oh yes,
all the
I know
planets
the one you're talking
around,
about.
and they're like a flat floating disk in space that's still orbiting the sun. But that,
got a turtle attached to it.
Yeah.
I know the ones you're talking about. Yeah, I know the ones. Yeah.
So, just to finish off, like it's physical. It's physically flat, right? But beyond that, it's hard to know the absolute truth of what it is. You know, is there more land? Is there the dome and all that stuff, which is a whole another hours and hours and hours of conversation.
Well, a great point to touch on that one is so Australia is like pretty much the same size apparently as I got a good one for you, man. All right, this is good. I might have to grab my charger from my phone, but you've got to froth this hard, man. All right, so Australia, massive, right? Absolutely massive. Have you ever looked at how high Kosciuszko is?
How do you mean looked? I mean,
like, have you ever looked up like what the height of
what the
Kosciuszko
kilometers
is?
are? I have.
Yeah,
man. I can't think of it. Yes,
it's only like 2.2 or something like that. It's nothing crazy. Yeah, it's like it's not even in the top 20 of the highest peaks around the world. Like it's fucking insane, right? So from one side of that landmass to the other, the highest point is 2.2 k's away from sea level. So from this point, I'm going to go over here, and then where's this finger? There it is. All right. So from this point here to this point here, and that being like 10,000 kilometers across, or however many, I don't know how many kilometers it is across off the top of my head, but it's a long way. You've got maybe just like the whole way across. That's how flat this continent is. Like,
yeah, exactly.
But this is what you're gonna love. I have to touch on this, man, because I know you're gonna love this. So this. Oh, where's my? Hold on. Yeah, no. I need all the lights on for this one. All the lights. There we go. That's what we're looking for. Excellent. So
I can't wait.
What I have here.
Oh, what's this map? I've seen this map.
So this is Novatotus Terrarium Cenobi Tab.
Yeah, that's where I've seen it. Looking at my old world maps. Yeah. That is sick.
So we've got the classic, like if you look up in here, you can find Tartary and all that kind of jazz. Sure. It's pretty cool. So cool. The classic, like California was an island once upon a time, you know, all these kind of, Tartary kind of things. The thing that I really want to touch on with this one is like, if we come into, it's going to be a little bit tricky because I am a fucking noob when it comes to this. But so if we come into this space, there's my finger. Nice. This right here says something in particular. And if you're not able to read it, I'll tell you in a second. What I want to take notice of is, so cartographers would have traveled along the coastlines. And the reason why most of the maps today are pretty on point with what we experience from a Google perspective is because as they sailed down these coastlines, they would have measured the distance in feet or miles or whatever, and so they were able to gauge a good map from the information that they had. The thing that I want to touch on is this particular coastline that we see traveling all across and then up and then down, and then what looks like, oh, what's that, Carpentaria? What is this, Nova Guinea? Oh, hold on. What the fuck is actually going on here? Is this Cape Tribulation?
Yeah, it's pretty spun out. Yeah, it's the Gulf in there almost.
Yeah, that's the Gulf right there, man. Like, so if we just take this back, this whole landmass here, right, and it's not on this side over here, this whole landmass here is called Terra Australis Incognita, right? This is 1647. I don't know if you'll be able to see from the glare. And I believe it says something about 1605 as well. So it's a pretty old one. The other one that I want to show you was this one, good favorite of mine. this right here, Terra Australis Incognita. And we've got Terra Australis Incognita, meridians or meridies, and look at the size of it. And then you've also got Nova Hollandia, which I'm guessing maybe Nova Hollandia.
Oh no, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, like New Holland. Yep, yeah. So we've got all of this landmass down the bottom here, which is described, measured, and then we also have this massive one up here. So what I'm basically getting to with that statement is look at the size of that in comparison to everything else. This is what they were saying was Australia back in the day, back in the 16th or 17th century, in comparison to South America, North America, Russia, Asia, Africa. So there's
more to it. They're hiding more.
There's absolutely more to it.
I'm 100% convinced that they're hiding more lands, man, for sure.
I think it's a reasonable thing to. I think it's absolutely reasonable to think that, for sure. It would, like, from the hemisphere, from the flat, from any point of perspective that you want to look from.
Yeah,
I think absolutely.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good, man. No, I suppose what I was. Now I've actually lost what. Why I was coming to, like, the I suppose the flat Earth awakening, which I sort of like to call more the globe deception or the heliocentric spell. The heliocentric spell, right? Like,
that's a great name for it.
Yeah, coming through that and being on the other side was such a pivotal moment in my paradigm shift for a lot of this stuff, and for others they just may not need it. They get there other ways, and it's their own journey. But to be able to conceive that a lie that big can actually take place was, I suppose, the real thing that hit home for me. That's all I was going to say. But I actually forget what the point of that was. So maybe you remember.
I can tie a point to it. That deception being so great is a result of the power of sympathetic wavelengths and harmonic resonance. If you can get things like 100 monkey syndrome, if you get enough people into a room and then they decide, all right, because we own the education facilities, we're going to go out and spread this information, and because we've wiped out a good portion of the population and we've only got a small population to work with in the first place, we'll be able to reinstate a whole new history. Why not? It's a systematic form of control, and it gives them ability to control masses in a way that they didn't have the ability to do before. So why not? And especially if the main point that they get to dismantle is that you're the center of the universe, into you're a piece of shit worth nothing and insignificant in comparison to everything else.
That's exactly where I was going, man. 100%. Yeah. That's the real awakening.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. It is. It doesn't. And I think that's why a lot of people, even with Maxi from Crow House, like the way that he says, and I know it's kind of almost blasphemous to say Santos and Max in the same episode, but I love their argument against each other, and and I love Max's argument towards the idea of, mate, it's like getting caught up in how you would say, I mean, it's big, it's blue, and it's beautiful, and we're all here together, and that's actually the most important part. And there's something deeper that I wanted to touch on there that I didn't quite get. It like went fuck.
It's all good, man. It'll come to you.
Maxi, what does Maxi say? Maxi says,
I haven't listened to him in quite a while, man. Yeah.
Right. He went to Mexico, and it was like, what happened to Max?
Well, it was when he had the big download of, he said, I think it was like he said something about almost like Men in Black type situation, not a memory wipe, but he come out and said the flat earthers are right, the globers are right, everything's right. It just kind of lost me a bit. Maybe I should have given him a bit, but I don't even know is it still Crow House? Is it still
It's
Is he
still
still
Crow
on
House.
YouTube? Yeah, okay.
No, he's mainly he got thrown off YouTube a long time ago. He's BitChute and all those old platforms now. Yeah. But yes. Yeah. Touching on the idea of science making out like people are insignificant in comparison to how flat Earth gives the opportunity of people recognizing that they're the center of the universe again.
Yeah.
It is one of the most powerful aspects of the movement, and I think that's the most. I think bringing it back around the orientation of coming back to home, coming back to self, coming back to who we are or who you are as a human being, fundamentally tearing down all other labels, tearing down all other associations, tearing down all other things. You are not the job that you go to. You are not the license that you hold in your pocket. You are not these things. You're not even the mind. You're not even the body. You're something else. But you are having a physical experience in this reality or this realm or whatever it is. Yes. And you are not insignificant. That is the most important part of the whole message.
I think so.
Yeah, and the biggest lie that's been taught, and the biggest lie in the heliocentric model and the heliocentric perception, and I love that name, Chris, is very welcome, is the fact that its biggest contemplation and its biggest message is that the average person in society is insignificant. And Gates doesn't think he's insignificant. Fauci doesn't think he's insignificant. And these people are
superior.
Yes, yeah,
above everyone else. The tricky part with that is contrary to what I said earlier about most people perhaps having this inherent kind of knowing, almost intuition that there's a creation story. It's a hard one to bring up to people because of that, because they don't want they're just taught of this kind of atheist kind of agnostic kind of reductionist type, evolution. And that's so ingrained. That part of it's so ingrained that it's often tricky to even go there. So then they're just caught in this flat verse globe on a physical sense, and it's hard to really break
exactly right.
That. Yeah.
I'm just quickly grabbing my charger, Chris. I'll be 1 sec because I just had a message come up. Woo! Race against time here. Up in.
Good, mate. We'll have to
call it in a sec anyway. I just thought I'd get the tie off. Yeah, that's all right. I just wanted to get the tie off with you. That's all. Yes, so I think you're absolutely right. Sorry, can you just quickly remind me the last thing you said there?
Well, just that it's hard to actually even get to that point with most people because they don't even want to acknowledge this creation story or this, whatever you want to call it, this extension.
It doesn't even need to be a creation story, and I totally know what you're saying. Like people aren't ingrained and indoctrinated into feeling like shit, and it's not their fault. That's the biggest thing, is it's not their fault. Like you've been born into a realm that you didn't actually ask to be born into, and that realm, that space has been built on purpose for you to be born into and be enslaved into. And no, it's not what is taught to us. Like it's full of tricks, it's full of bends. What we're taught as slavery, or what slavery looks like, is so violent in comparison to the system of slavery that we're actually subjected to in this life. And yes, that one did exist upon a time, and still exists in many parts of the world. But that doesn't discredit what the forms of slavery can look like. And if and what we're talking about in terms of forms of slavery is go out and walk into nature and survive.
No chance unless you know what you're doing.
Unless you know what you're doing. So and that's how quickly we can identify how far removed from our natural habitat that we are. And And so if you want to start there as a foundation point in terms of starting to dissolve how you've been taught that you're insignificant, how you've been taught that creation actually doesn't really mean anything, and it's you know, in comparison to my iPhone, who cares? Like, and ironically, the iPhone came from creation, so like, where do you win? Someone had to have the creative thought or the energy behind, like creative energy within their vessel to have the creative thought to come up with the iPhone in the first place. Like,
or it's just come straight from the upside down world. Here's the technology, people. You will love this. No, it's still created.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's still all created. That's the thing. That's the irony of it all, is that it's so simple to call it out for what it is. But but you're absolutely right, Chris, is that it's so hard to get someone to dissolve their Stockholm syndrome surrounding why that's important, why
that's yes, and that's often the biggest question. What does it matter? Why does it matter? And you know, I hear Dave and other people like that sort of, they'll just rattle someone new to the whole, you know, globe deception, and you know, they'll say, what about this, what about that, and he'll smash it, and then they'll go, okay, but what does it even matter? You know, that's often the default go-to for anyway,
because you matter.
Exactly.
That's the answer. Exactly. Because you matter. The person who asked that question, why does it matter, is actually saying to themselves in that moment, I don't matter, because I'm asking why does it matter? Because if you don't realize that that's a part of why you matter, then yeah, there lies the crux in which we were first talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, fantastic, man. I love it. Good stuff, man. I really appreciate you coming in. I reckon I'm going to have to get you back so we can go into some other stuff, man, because I feel like there's some more to be discussed here.
There's a lot there, man.
Most days I'm okay to sort of go beyond like an hour and a half, but today I can't really keep going, man.
No, I totally feel you. Yeah.
But yeah, man, I'd love to get into, well, just, you know, maybe we can do it again soon if you're free and you're up for it. We'll keep in touch.
Love that.
Yeah, wouldn't mind getting into some of the current sort of happenings. You know, any sort of where you see things going. You know, we talk about the financial system and what looks like a most certain say collapse if you want, but
definitely
100% new system coming in. You know, whether that has to be this giant inflationary depression, this. You know, I think it does. I think we have this most likely inflationary depression, and then we'll, you know, problem reaction solution. Well, here's your new financial system. Thank you, governments. You're so great, our overlords. We really appreciate what you've done for us. But yeah, go on.
Can I just quickly ask? Have you heard of Aladdin? Have you heard of the BlackRock AI computer?
Oh no! Oh, like in Westworld? Like, have you ever seen Westworld?
No, I haven't seen Westworld, but
I forget what they call it. But it's so BlackRock. Well, it's probably straight out of Westworld, man. It's this giant computer that runs everything essentially.
So Aladdin is 34 years old and turned 34 years old this year. I think it was 34 years old. Which I encourage every single person watching. Once you get off this, find the information, because there's an awesome little video running around at the moment all about it. Put very simply, Aladdin is the name of a AI machine, which is, in my personal opinion, the digitalization of ego, and it basically navigates, runs, operates, watches 80% of the entire world's transactions. And it so when people talk about BlackRock and they talk about Vanguard and how that these companies are the big head hitters behind the scenes of everything, if you go further down that, you'll find that the owner of BlackRock has a son, and the son is named Aladdin, and Aladdin is effectively he's a AI bot that is injected into every single fucking thing that has electricity attached to it, pretty much. Like,
which is everything, pretty much.
which is everything. And like
Wow.
when
No,
you
I haven't heard of this. I'll suss it out. Now.
yeah, man, it's actually like
It doesn't
you got to
surprise me.
It's one of those other things you got to bow to, man. Because like not in terms of I will serve you, but bow. Thank you for showing me my weakness, man. Because now I know where you're at. Like, yeah, so cool.
Do you think
All
we
right.
can have a reset of this current debt-based fiat Ponzi scheme that's not digital and really
Like,
benefits the people in today, like right now, or do we still have? Are we set on a path that has to occur?
I believe that we're set on a path. I agree. I believe that we're set on a path that has to occur. There's so many things that need to dissolve for us to, before we get our actual opportunity to shine on a global scale. Right now, where we're shining is on grassroots movements, and that's the foundation being laid for sympathetic wavelengths and harmonic resonances to be pushed out on a global scale.
Well, let's call
Where
it worldwide scale, hey, just so everyone's on the same page.
worldwide.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, exactly. Worldwide scale. Sorry.
No.
But no, in terms of QFS, quantum financial system, and what we're looking at there, I think a lot of people have made the great point that what happens when all the electricity gets turned off. That I believe that world looks really good as long as the people own the solar farms that keep the servers up and running. But as long as there's monopolized control over those systems, then we'll always, you'll never be able to make a coin transfer without Origin supplying the energy to make that coin transfer.
Gotcha.
That's the big crux of it. So looking at that particular weak point, I'd say that, yeah, there's some things that we'll need to go through before we get that true independence from an electronic perspective. I don't know. I don't think we're going back to a point where people are going to be taking their graders into the shops and grading some silver and like just, have some silver or have some gold.
I think that could potentially play out in a distant future.
Distant, right? Exactly. Yeah. It's not around the corner. It's not around. We're not there.
We have to see maybe something cataclysmic, something the digital system fully collapse and the people rise up completely because they're not happy. Perhaps.
To be completely honest, man, where like if I could tie it in, because I know you got to go, but I really want to answer your question as to where I see it going, and I'll answer it in a way where I hope to see it go. If we have every single human being out there that works for a conglomerate or a major company or a major construction company or a development company, you actually have the skills and attributing factors to build a society and a civilization. And money is only an interpreted resource. It's the value system that you place on money that gets things done. It's not actually it's not actually the thing that gets things done. You putting your hands to the work and you putting your hands to the ground is what actually gets things done. Coming from that basis, that the average person out there is the one that built the buildings and the temples that these fuckers in suits stand in, that paves the way for our understanding towards building civilizations and communities that are absolutely sorted in terms of food, shelter, clothing, warmth, and creative expression and the human, like so on and so forth.
Community, yeah.
Sure. Yep. So, and I believe through that will be our capacity to map, measure systems that we can incorporate on larger and larger scales as the grassroots movements get larger and larger themselves, and they're able to manage those systems and work out integrities to retain the structure of those systems in a way that helps and blossoms and still keeps in practice sovereignty, still keeps in practice free will, still keeps in practice
harnesses truth and creativity. Yeah.
Exactly right. But we're not all subjected to you know, someone's got to have their name on the register so that they can pay Origin so that we can pay for our shit with Bitcoin, you know, like,
Yeah. It's besides the point.
There's things. Yeah, there's things that need to happen, and we actually need to go through the shit to work out how to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So
awesome, man. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'd actually, we'll have to chat more about that in particular, I think.
Love to.
Because solutions is what, you know, what ultimately we should be focused on, you know, not dwelling in the fear of the boogeyman, as you said earlier. We should be focused on solutions. And that's kind of why I wanted to chat more. The main crux of this is the sound healing, because I think that's a great, just another little piece to the puzzle that we can all, you know, if it interests you, look further into. Or are you doing anything that should we? If someone's interested more, what should they do? Just
so if someone's yeah, I'm happy to put myself out there. Everyone is.
You don't have
to.
Man.
No, I know, and like it's probably coming from a space where I do a lot of stuff really personally with people, and I'm not So, but what I would say definitely without a doubt is if I can get you to a place of calm, if I can get you to a place of bliss, if I can get you to a brainwave state of alpha and creativity and love and gratitude and those kind of spaces for yourself, and those orientations of why they're for yourself is based off your humanity and your humility, and what actually makes you sacred is the fact that you're a living entity on this face of the planet that's able to interpret everything around it, and feel everything around it, have empathy for everything around it. Then if you're, you know, the CEO or CFO of Coke, then come talk to me, because if I can change your outlook on the way that you're poisoning people, then I'd love to have that conversation with you and get you into a space of love. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, man. It's like is there's still people. Those are the ones that all of us that are in this space of love, gratitude, wisdom, intellect, all that kind of space, that sanctity of humanity. We need to be sending that love, that transformational love, to the people that we think are our enemies, who are not our enemies, who are actually just humans that have been led astray. And that's all it is. We just need to lead them back to a place of love and humility for themselves and every other being around them.
Amazing. Well said, man. That's a great way to finish up.
Thank you, brother. No worries.
All right, mate. Look, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you, Grant.
Absolute pleasure.
We'll catch up again soon, man. And yeah, dude, I'd love to get you back on, talk a bit more about. I know you do, you know, where you guys live and stuff. Sounds interesting, and what you offer there.
Yeah. I'll definitely have a chat. Yeah, and I'll see what we say about that.
I'd love to, get a bit more into a few other things. All right, man. Well,
big time, man.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks again.
I will. And, I will. You too. Yeah, you will, brother. Big love to you. Big love to everyone. I'll see you soon.
Thanks,
okay.
See you, man.